John Ossoff has launched an investigation into corporate landlords. He is wanting to get more information about all of the single family homes that have been bought up by corporate landlords in the recent years. So for those of you who don't know, there have been tens of thousands of homes bought up by corporations and companies in the Metro Atlanta area. We spoke about it a few weeks back. And so this is going to go a little bit deeper into that. But in essence, we are still in a housing shortage, a housing crisis, if you will. We have a demand that exceeds the supply of housing, but we also have a crisis on the pricing side, which plays into the supply and the demand. Because typically low supply, high demand, higher prices. By getting more supply to meet the demand, we can essentially lower the prices of housing a little bit as well. But that's being made exponentially more difficult by corporations who have deep pockets buying up all of the real estate or all of the single family homes that are available, particularly in the Metro Atlanta area, which is one of the worst cities where this is going on across the country. They're buying up all this real estate, turning them into rental properties. So people who actually want to own homes and start building their own, wealth for their family, generational wealth, whatever it might be, it makes it harder for them to be able to do so. And so with that, I guess we'll launch off into what your thoughts are about this whole thing.
Brother Ossoff, I'm so happy and proud that Brother Ossoff has launched this here just in time. What'd you say, just in time for his re-election, isn't it?
You know what? I thought the timing seemed a little, pointed.
Convenient.
Convenient is a good word.
Well, just like our president promised to drive down the price of eggs. Mm-hmm. I was in the grocery store today and, eggs, they're about the same. I think they've gone down a little bit since anyway, but same thing with that. I have to be, if he does get reelected, you got to put his money where his mouth is. And that's the thing. You have to wait until a person actually gets in office to see whether or not they're going to hold true to their campaign promises. Mm-hmm. This is definitely for people who are in the real estate industry, like yourself, like myself. Mm-hmm. We make our living off of the fact that people are able to buy homes. Now, if you were the mortgage broker or in a mortgage department, or if I was the real estate agent for a huge corporate landlord, I wouldn't have anything to say about it, Mm-hmm. But we both work for the common person, the common people. And so, I know, like you said, you love helping, our Black and brown brothers and sisters getting into homes, the veterans getting into homes, Mm-hmm. That's just so this is very near. This is an issue that's very near and dear to our heart. And it's funny because I feel like one of the last things that I said when we did the corporate landlord podcast was, I wish that it needs to be handled, at a state and legislative level. And so here we are. The thing about it is, even if no one does anything at the governmental level, it would really be up to homeowners to band together, right? To say, hey, we won't sell to a corporate landlord. Mm-hmm. But like the article, one of the videos that you sent me mentioned, they're able to oftentimes offer thousands of dollars more than a regular consumer would, which is what's helping them to be so successful in a day now where most of the people that are listing properties that I've known of are doing so because the house is the biggest bill, biggest debt, and they need cash flow.
Oh, they want that money.
So Tell me who's going to say no to an offer that's maybe even 10,000 higher than a regular family. So we say we don't want corporations and things to take over, but if, like I said, if we can't get it to happen at a governmental level, it has to be at a homeowner, peer-to-peer level that we can make this change happen. But beyond that,
at the end of the day, money talks, and at the end of the day, if you're selling your home and, you've had some buyers or whoever come up to you and say, you know what, this is how we need to do this. And those buyers, let's just say, or sellers rather, you decide you're going to sell your home and you're like, okay, I'm not going to go to a corporate landlord. I want this to stay with individual families, preferably a Georgia resident. But, someone who's an individual, and then a corporation comes up and offers you 10,000 above asking, 15,000 above asking, which means that you're going to have an extra 10, 15,000 in your pocket.
Listen,
how loyal are you
either.
to the cause? How loyal are you to the cause?
My goodness. Woo, help me, Lord. The love of money is the root of all evil, Frederick.
It's like, you know what? How bad is it really for a corporation
you know what
to
I
own the
could do
house?
with an extra $10,000? No, I'm just playing. But no, in all seriousness, it's I can't listen, like, I can't just throw rocks, I got to put myself on the other side of the equation as well, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I will say, in reading this article about the investigation for John Ossoff, which again, if those of you didn't know, because I didn't mention it before, John Ossoff is one of the 2 U.S. senators for Georgia. Senator Raphael Warnock being the other senator. So John Ossoff being one of those 2 senators. So yeah, John Ossoff launching this probe and an investigation. The investigation rather follows a report by a Georgia State University professor that found more than 30% of single family homes in Metro Atlanta are owned by out-of-state companies, which is nearly 10 times the national average. And this is a trend that's been spreading beyond Metro Atlanta into other parts of the state as well. That is a huge anchor point or a huge, number to anchor your investigation or your argument off of, which is that, 30% of single family homes in the Metro Atlanta area are owned by corporations and companies. And I know for one, with homes that I've been financing recently, it seems like every other home that a buyer is buying, the seller is a corporation. So I'm like, my goodness, how many homes are owned by corporations and companies? And a lot of these homes are the ones that tend to be a little bit lower in price point. It's not the $400,000, $500,000 homes.
Correct.
It's the $200,000, $300,000 homes, which is something that is even more, I guess you could say, troublesome, because those are the homes that really help people to get started along their homeownership journey, those lower price points. And so those are the ones that a lot of these corporations and companies are going after, which has a disproportionate effect on individuals who really need the assistance, really need the help, really need those low purchase price homes to get their start in homeownership, not having that opportunity because of what's more easily getting swooped up off the market by corporations and landlords and everything.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. These corporate landlords are going for the very homes that, even if you're not a first-time home buyer, let's just say you want to downsize because the kids are gone, or let's just say you want to downsize because you realize that you're living above your means. And so you want to sell a house, but you don't necessarily want to be a renter. You just maybe want something smaller. These are the price points that people are going to want to go into. But at the same time, I think one reason why the corporate landlords don't go for the higher price point homes is because the amount of rent that they would have to charge, it's a lot fewer people who can get approved for 3 times that particular rent in income. It's all about their bottom line. So they're not going to buy a whole bunch of houses that they're going to have trouble getting rented out, even though, yes, they are controlling the area median rents by buying up these homes. It takes time to be able to drive them up. Even with corporate landlords, if a house sits on the market long enough, Progress Residential and Main Street Renewal, for sure, 2 companies that I've worked with to find tenants homes, they will definitely drop a price Progress has it real bad about they'll drop a price $10 and send you a text message saying that they have dropped $10, whereas whenever I would list rentals for private owners, I'd be like, okay, we probably need to go down $50 or $100, something that's actually gonna make a difference. But they'll drop it $10 at a time every 2 weeks until they finally find somebody to rent the house out. So I'll
say another thing that I did want to get into is part of with the John Ossoff investigation and everything. He's looking into the rental amounts, the rent control, and literally rent control that these companies have when you're buying up, thousands of homes in an area. You're controlling a huge portion of a market, especially if a lot of those homes are, densely in. Located in one particular area rather than 10,000 homes spread across, all of Metro Atlanta. If it's 10,000 homes just located in a particular area, that even, further exacerbates the rent control power that you have. That being one thing, but the other thing being that the maintenance and upkeep of these properties by corporations and landlords. There are no shortage of videos out there for people who live in homes, single family homes owned by corporations and landlords, but they complain about how the companies aren't maintaining and upkeeping the properties. They complain about, their rent goes up, but the property maintenance is, lagging. Is it a thing where these companies and corporations don't care about the communities? It's more of like a way to get money, which I'm more inclined to believe it is a way to get money, and you're not as invested in the community as someone who actually lives in the community, especially with a lot of these companies and corporations not even being located in the state of Georgia. Georgia is a business opportunity for them. And with them not even being located in the state, it's like, okay, so, you see opportunity to make money. Obviously, maintaining and upkeeping the property to a certain standard is going to cut into your profits. So if you don't have to do that, but you can still keep a tenant in there, even if that tenant is complaining, you can still keep them in the property, then it's a win-win for you as a corporate landlord, because you're getting the money you want, charging the rent you want. Tenants don't really have much of an option if there's not a lot of homes in their price point where they can purchase at. And so it seems like you're backing people into a corner, essentially.
Listen, Elon Musk got 14 kids. You start having all them kids, there is absolutely no way you can spend as much time as you need with each and every single one of them, making sure that each one has their emotional, physical, financial, he ain't got no problem with that, needs met, right? It's the same thing with these corporate landlords. They got all these kids, aka houses, and at certain points, certain things just fall by the wayside. It's going to be impossible for them to keep up with the maintenance. They would have to hire many more people, not only just to handle the maintenance issues, but also to take the maintenance complaints. And, if it cuts into their bottom line, I don't think that that's going to be priority for them. But one thing that I thought was interesting was how, remember, the NAR settlement was because they said realtors and, our commissions is what was driving up housing prices. Remember that? That was one of their main arguments, right?
It was.
So, surprise to me to read this article, and now corporate landlords are being blamed for driving up housing prices. So you know what? I need y'all to make up your mind. What is it? You know what I'm saying? Because did you all just take my industry through hell and back with this lawsuit claiming that realtor commissions have been around since at least the 70s, 80s? Yeah,
they quite some time.
No one ever touched it. No one ever thought about it. But honestly, and I'm not just saying this because, I'm biased or whatever, I would like to think that a reduction in housing supply because of these big, huge corporate developers, real estate developers that can afford to buy these homes, that would be the most likely culprit of, why housing prices are where they are.
Yeah, I think it's hard because I think it's so many issues that we have when it comes to housing. I definitely think it's a supply issue, because I think if the market were flooded with homes, like what was the case in 2008, where it was hard to get financing, ton of homes foreclosed, ton of homes on the market for you to purchase. I think if the housing market were flooded with homes, then we would be in a situation where home prices would be lower. But I also feel like there are a few players that have a huge impact on where this thing goes. And unfortunately, the people who need the housing the most, who could most benefit from becoming a homeowner and being able to build that wealth, don't have a seat at the table. I think that people with deep pockets, companies, corporations, hedge funds that have tens of millions to throw into housing, hundreds of millions to throw into housing, some of them billions. If you're talking about like a BlackRock, that they have to throw into housing, buying up whatever opportunity scratches the itch to allow them to make more money, and maintain their wealth as well while continuing to build upon it. Those individuals, I hate to say it, there are politicians who have companies and corporations in their back pocket that are kind of, pulling the levers, if you will, because let's be honest, it's a lot of stuff that goes on in our politics that a lot of it just doesn't make sense. It's like, okay, you're elected to be for the people, but you're not making decisions that are in the best interest of the people. It's a select few people, maybe the people that are controlling more of the money and the corporations and everything. So I don't know, a long way of saying I think it's a multifaceted approach or problem that you're looking at, where you've got politics and laws that are either in place or not in place to allow corporations to come into a community and buy up all the housing. That's one thing where it's like, why don't we have anything that can stop that from happening? It's like, oh, well, it's free, for people to go and buy houses. It's like, yeah, but to what extent? But then, you've got the lack of housing out there, affordable housing, and the housing shortage. Builders are in it for revenue as well. Now you have builders that want to build homes and help individuals be able to purchase homes. But at the end of the day, a builder cannot build a home and sell it at a loss. They're not going to be in business very long. They have to make a profit. And if it's not profitable for them to build $200,000 homes, they're going to build $300,000 or $350,000 or $400,000 homes, which a lot of the new construction that you're seeing are not new construction $200,000 homes. They're new construction 350s, up from the 380s and up, or the 400s and up. Those are the new construction ones that are being built because that's the price point at which builders are making them to where they can actually make a profit. And so, it's like, how do you resolve that, where the builders who could help put more supply on the market are, not wanting to move in the direction of putting affordable housing on the market just because it's not profitable. So maybe you're looking at like government subsidies at that point, where it's like, hey, we'll subsidize you, or, basically pay you money to build low income housing for people. But then that ends up in a whole nother political argument about, utilizing government funds to build low income housing and giving it. It's just so much stuff. It gets chaotic at some point. So I don't think it's one clean cut answer. And so to add another wrench into this nice plan that we don't have, I also watched a video on it was a news video actually, about Georgia for the 11th year in a row being ranked as the #1 place to do business. And with that, a lot of companies, a lot of corporations have their sights set on Georgia because of the laws in Georgia, how easy it is to do business in Georgia, how easy it is to, you get tax breaks in Georgia. It's a lot of business friendly incentives for, business owners and companies and corporations to do business. This is something that Governor Brian Kemp has been, very proud of, how Georgia's been ranked #1 place to do business. But I think the question also needs to be asked, are we doing enough to look out for people who aren't in business? Are we doing enough to look out for individuals who are employees of those businesses? Because if we're only looking out for, we're the #1 place to do business, but we're not looking out for, what about the employees of those businesses? Do those employees also have an opportunity to be able to improve their quality of life, improve their standard of living? Or are we, just happy being 11 years strong, trying to go for a 12th year, or, however long you keep this streak going of Georgia being the #1 place to go to for business? And we were trying to attract all these businesses, bring in all this revenue, all this money into Georgia, or whatever it is that's going to incentivize businesses to come here, but we're not really looking out for the disproportionate effect that could be having on the residents of Georgia who aren't business owners, the people who live in Georgia that would like to own a home, but you've got corporations and companies who aren't even in Georgia buying up real estate in large amounts in Georgia. I just feel like it's a disproportionate effect if you only look at the one side, but you're not looking at what is Georgia doing on the flip side for individual residents, or owners.
Yeah, I mean, we may be ranked for the 11th year in a row, one of the best states to do business in, but at the same time, we're the 4th highest rate of first-year business failures. So
you read that part.
Huh?
So you read that part.
I did. Because you can't say that we're one of the best, but then also #4 in the country for first year business failures. I remember this was about probably a year, maybe a year and a half ago. I don't think it was that long, but so that would have put me in my 5th year, I think, of doing real estate. And I was talking to this new guy. He was trying to get me to partner with him to do loans, but communication is important for me. And like every other word was, I said, oh my gosh, I know I'm not going to be able to get through a transaction with this man. But anyway, he was one of the first people to tell me that I was to call me a veteran. He was like, most realtors, statistically, he just brought this to my attention. He was a mortgage loan officer, but he was like, most realtors don't do that first renewal. Mm-hmm. And he said, and actually, I think most of them drop out after the first, maybe 2nd year max.
Really?
So the fact that, yes, that is actually statistic, but I had never been called a veteran. He was like, he called me a veteran. I was like, oh, really? He was like, yeah, if you have about to go for your 2nd license renewal, mm-hmm. or even your 3rd, like, yes, that is a telltale sign that you have overcome the hump. But one of the videos that you sent that I watched, it was a lady, and what she said her issue was what I think a lot of people's issue is. They have a concept. They really make great key lime pies. They really make awesome brisket sandwiches, right? Somebody told them that their macaroni and cheese is just the bee's knees. And so they go and they open up this restaurant because they got a little money from their food truck.
Not the bee's knees.
Bee's knees, honey. And yeah, within that first year they failed because not only, the Bible even says, by many advisors, a man's plans will succeed, right? Mm-hmm. Many are called. It also says that many are called, but few are chosen.
Yep.
So a lot of people are going to be saying, oh, you know what? You should do this. You should just take this idea and run with it. Oh, you're going to be real successful. And that's all people want to hear. They don't want to really hear the truth. Like, maybe you should take I have family members. I was like, well, I got a little book, wanted to have a trucking company. Like, well, I got a little book that maybe if you want to read, because I had taken a transportation class in college. Didn't want that. just going to completely wing it. I've got investors. I've got people that back me. I've got people that believe in me. Well, investors, they're going to want to make some money, right? Me, I have 2 business degrees. And I think that does contribute to the fact that, and 14 years of entrepreneurial experience. But the vast majority of people have no business acumen, no clue. So of course they're going to fail in their first year.
Yes.
And but they say that Georgia has awesome workforce training programs, infrastructure investments, tax incentives.
Mm-hmm.
However, we also have state tax in addition to, federal tax, which is where I come from in Texas. We didn't have state tax. So, and like I said before, we're full.
We are. We are very full, and it's I will say there is a when you said infrastructure, I was like, you know what, there are a lot of our roads are definitely better than some of the other places I have been. I've been to some places where the roads are so jacked up, and I'm just like, goodness. And I'm not saying Atlanta's great or perfect, because we have our issues.
I live downtown, and baby.
Oh yeah, see, I'm
on a regular Tuesday,
it's like a maze, just dodging the potholes. It adds excitement to your drive, your commute in the morning.
But yeah, you're right. Compared to like some places in Dallas, and have you ever been on that stretch of 20 going into Louisiana?
Yeah, so I was actually, I was literally thinking about Louisiana. Louisiana. There are some places in New Orleans that it's like, you know what?
Just ride on the shoulder. Just drive on the shoulder. Turn your emergency blinkers on and just drive on the shoulder.
I was actually thinking that same thing. I was like, you know what? Y'all really need to, the city council, y'all need to be replaced or do a better job of getting these roads fixed. I don't know where the money's going, but it's not going to fixing these roads. It's tearing up these cars. But no, we do have.
We have all of these. Still, we have these compared to Texas, especially when they say infrastructure investments. Listen, we still have a lot of these streets where there's one lane going in either direction. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, they need to add more lanes. Mm-hmm. I feel like that in a lot of places in Georgia. So like you said, yeah, I guess we're okay, but we could definitely stand to do better compared to some of the places I've been.
Well, beyond the lanes, I also, and this is me getting a little bit sidetracked, but beyond the lanes, I feel like they should expand public transportation, because we can add more lanes and more people are continuing to flood into Atlanta. So we're just going to fill up more lanes. That's true. Until we have like 4 or 5 lanes on each side of 20, or 75, 85, whatever, because it's already like 6 lanes of traffic going, 75, 85 north and south. And then we're still filling it up to the point to where it's like, you go down there during rush hour, still bumper to bumper. You add 3, 4 more lanes, it's going to be bumper to bumper with 3, 4 more lanes. I think that if we build out our metropolitan transit system, then I think that would definitely help a lot. But every time there's been a proposal, it gets shut down, because when they try to build it out to particular areas, there are people that are like, well, we don't want MARTA coming in this area, because the people that take public transportation, they feel like that's going to bring a demographic of individuals that they don't want showing up in their backyard. So they don't want MARTA.
Well, put up a gate. I'm tired of people always complaining about the problem. Then when you offer them a solution, they complain about that too.
It's like we just argue back and forth. It's like we can never come to agreement on anything. But right. But yeah, no. To wrap it up is like I did want. I feel like ownership is the big thing that's missing in Atlanta. There's, like you stated, and with some of the stuff we just discussed, there's been some good things that have been done, in Georgia. Some good things that the governor's been able to, put together. Some good things that the city council and everything, with different projects that are going on. roads. It's not all bad with bringing businesses into the state. It does help bring a lot of money into the state, which helps bring a lot of jobs into the state. When businesses want to come here, also brings a lot of traffic into the state as well. So, you know, you got to take the good with the bad. But so there's some good stuff that comes in. There's some not so good stuff that comes in. But I think one of the things that we have to be intentional on pushing back is literally how much we allow companies and corporations to affect the livelihood of people who want to own homes. Like, ownership is one of the biggest, most important ways that people are able to build wealth throughout their lifetime. It is, they've done research studies that homeowners are more than 40 times wealthier than renters. The median net worth of homeowners is 40 times more than the median net worth of renters. Homeowners have more in savings than what renters have. Being a homeowner is so key and essential. Homeowners tend to vote more than renters vote. Homeowners tend to be more involved in the community than renters are involved in the community. Why? Because you have ownership in that community. This is a place where I live. This is a place where I'm potentially raising my kids. This is a place that I want to be a part of. I feel connected to, you know, me and my neighbors and whatever else. And I think that can't be overlooked with this corporate takeover of housing. One last thing I will say, because and we actually already touched on it a little bit, but one of the arguments for the corporate landlords that I did hear was that, oh, well, you know, the problem is not the corporate landlords. They made the argument that corporate landlords are actually coming in, buying up properties and making the areas better than what they were previously, which, you know, I don't necessarily agree with that.
Case by case basis.
You know, it's funny that someone who doesn't even live in the state, has no, you know, invested interest, you know, you're not in anybody's backyard, you know, this is not your home in Atlanta, but speaking from another state, and I'm gonna get a little, you'll see where we're going here, but it's like someone who doesn't even live here is like, no, we're actually making your community better. Is like what we have done as a country when we have also gone into other countries and other nations and affected change in other nations that we thought was in their best interest. And so we said, hey, we don't know what you're complaining about. We actually are making your country better. We're making your country, and as if, you know, they were asking for our help. You know, there are some countries, it's like we came in, asserted our authority, and our help was not asked for or anything, but we just assume, oh, we're making it better. Just like, oh, you know, I would be cautious before taking that approach of, you know, we're coming in and we're improving your neighborhoods. It's like, but you don't even live here. You have to have been here for some period of time, get to know the residents, get to know the people in the neighborhood, you know, before you can just be an out-of-state company or corporation and make a statement that we're actually improving your neighborhoods, you know, here. It's like, well, maybe not. Do you even know the people that live here? Do you know what their struggles are? Do you know what's preventing them from being able to accomplish what they do want to accomplish? You know, a lot of these people that are renting don't want to rent forever. But do you know what kind of situation you're creating when you are buying up all the properties and saying, we'll rent them to you and we're going to make your neighborhoods better? You know, so
they just feel like throwing a lot of money at something is automatically making it better, because obviously that's you guys' problem, right? Is that it's a money thing. So we're just going to throw money at it and make it better. But that's not always the case. Sometimes they just need programs. Sometimes they need, you know, stimulation in the form of budgeting classes and what, you know, how to do certain things and use your money to improve your own house and the yard around it. It's a lot of people that own homes that have no clue really how to take care of one. So have, you know, seminars and things like that. It's not always just come in and buy up a property and then I'm going to show you how to do it by how I take care of the property. No, that's not, you know. I think you know what I think the new American dream is? It's not home ownership anymore.
No.
At this point, how they driving us to the new American dream is just if you have a roof over your head, that's it. Just at the bare minimum, just have a roof over your head. That's the new American dream.
Well, if you read in Revelation, it does say that we're going to get to a point to where it's going to be, a whole day's wage for, a measure of
a loaf of bread,
a measure of wheat. Basically you're going to work all day just to be able to eat. So keeping a roof over your head is going to be, unfortunately, the least of someone's concerns who's like, I haven't eaten in the last 2-3 days. I'm just trying to get a meal right now. We'll figure out the roof thing later. But yeah, I mean, things are getting more expensive. Wages are not going to be keeping up with how expensive life is getting. So, I mean, everything that you can do to possibly improve your standard of living, I say, go for it. As long as it's legal. Obviously, we're not endorsing any illicit activity, but as long as it's legal, then work hard. Not work hard, work smart. The whole thing of, work hard and apply yourself and you can make something out of yourself. You got people that's been working hard for 20-30 years and their standard of living has not improved not one bit from all the hard work they've put in. Work smart, see where things are at right now and how you can get plugged in, but also do some research and see where things are going. And, if you can get ahead of that wave of where things are going and start to look at ways that you can, improve your standard of living and everything like that, I say go for it because, it's the housing problem that we're seeing right now. I have to say I am a bit skeptical that this investigation is going to lead to anything concrete. I guess to sum it up and put a bow on it, it's great that it's an investigation, but it's also very timely that it comes, close to when someone needs to get reelected. It's like, hey, I'm gonna launch this investigation, and by the way, I'm up for reelection. Very timely. So I don't have high hopes that it's going to lead to anything other than maybe someone who's trying to get reelected being able to swing enough votes to get reelected. But we'll see. Maybe they prove me wrong. I don't have faith in politics. I don't have faith in politicians. I have faith in people. I have faith in God above all things. But I believe that people can do more to affect the change that they want to see, not the politicians. And I even see that throughout history. You see a lot of, my mind is going straight to just prominent figures in Black history who were not politicians, but got things done. And it's like, you don't have to be a politician. You don't have to be, some prominent figure in government. And I continue to hold that belief that, we can make things happen without ever having to hold a political office. So,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's where I leave that. But parting words?
Completely unrelated to what you just said, but I just want to really make this point because I've been wanting to make it for the last few weeks. I bought my first house for under $150K. It was brand new in 2017. When we had the pandemic in 2020, the cost of everything went up because they were like the truck drivers and all of this, we can't get, lumber. And so that's why they said that the housing prices went up after that. Right. Mm-hmm. But when the trucks got back on the road and all of that, lumber, I mean, I don't know if it's still as expensive, but the housing prices still haven't gone down. Mm-hmm. And so, whether or not, and now even with the tariffs, I have a client who's trying to get a new roof. And we were getting quotes this week and they were like, literally, had you called 2 weeks ago, we would have been $2,000 less on our quote because it's a tiny standalone building in East Point. And so, with the price of everything as it is now, even to sell a home, not just to own a home, but to sell a home is becoming more and more expensive. So, I am a little bit more hopeful than you when it comes to what Brother Ossoff has said he's going to do. Because if nothing else, at least it'll bring some attention for the regular American people or, the Georgian people anyway. And then it'll put the corporate landlords on blast. Like, we see you, we see you, we know what you're doing, and, however, at the end of the day, I know that they have a lot of money and,
yes, they do.
They do what, and that's what empowers them to do whatever it is that they're doing.
Yeah.
So, little old brother Ossoff, going up against these major corporations. I can see where your skepticism is coming from. I really do.
I mean, it's like you said, it puts them on blast. Like, we see what you're doing, but they have so much money. They're like, yep, we'll take that one over there and that one over there.
And the one you're standing in looks good too. Oh my goodness, you want to buy my house too, right out from up under you?
Yeah, so I mean, maybe it will put them on blast, but like you said, when you got so much money that you just feel untouchable, I feel like they're gonna be like, yep, that whole neighborhood, we'll just take that one and those 3 over there as well, and then we'll sell 1 or 2 back, good for the community. But yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we'll see where it goes. I hope I'm wrong. You know what? I hope John Ossoff really does shed a spotlight that blinds the corporations and makes them see, the brighter side of things. And they're like, hey, you know what? We do care more about people than profits. We can.
Oh, God.
We can be the difference we want to see in the world.
Never mind. You know what? When you put it that way, never mind. When it comes to their money versus making a difference, maybe Gandhi would have, but I think he's gone. So,
yeah. Yeah.
Oh, well.
Like I said, I think it was, I can't remember. It may have been on a previous episode, but it was like, there's no, and I think it was another video I did. I can't remember. I've done so much, but in any case, it was a statement that I had made where I was like, there is no cap. There's no limit. No $100 billion company has ever made got to 100 billion and they're like, hey, we're done. We made enough money. They're like, how can we get to 200? Elon Musk's net worth is like over $300 billion. And he's trying to find ways to incorporate his companies into government contracts for, personal benefit, and so it's 300 billion is not enough. We got to find other ways to continue to expand your empire, essentially, richest man in the world. And it's like, how can we get richer?
Bill Gates was chastising him the other week in the news, talking about he was wasting his money. But, Bill Gates is a philanthropist. He and his wife plan on giving away their entire fortune before like the year 2040 or something like that.
Oh, is he remarried?
But
is he remarried?
Well, I'm sorry, him and Melinda.
The ex-wife. Yeah,
she gave away most of her money already, and he's on track to do that. But he called Elon wasteful. I said, oh, now the billionaires are attacking each other. Lord, what does the world come to? But it's true. Yeah. It's true. No, he was really on track to become a trillionaire before he, got hooked up with Doge and all of that. But, I was reading Proverbs 18 today, how it just says that, rich people believe that their money is a fortress to them. And they believe that they can do anything that they want because of the money. But then it said, but the name of the Lord is a strong tower. The righteous run in and are safe. But the strong tower to the rich is their wealth. And they believe that they can do anything, or that their money can make whatever kind of ways for them. And it can, but at the same time, we're all going to need saving from something at some point. And so, that's just something to think about. In all thy getting, get understanding, and all you're gaining, make sure that you keep God first, so.
Yeah, no, and that's a great place to end it. You can amass all of the wealth that you can dream of, all of the wealth that you believe will make you happy. It will get you no closer to God. because when we leave this earth, we are all going to be standing before him as the judge to give an account for all of the things that we've done throughout our time on this earth, and how we utilize the resources that he placed into our hands to better the lives of others and draw them nearer to Christ, or did we use that for personal gain? So yeah, I agree completely. I think that's a good place to put a pin in it. So
amen.
Yeah, absolutely. So no, as always, every Friday we'll be dropping a new episode, and Tuesday, Home Finance Hacks, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, live right here on YouTube. Make sure you tune in. And until next time, take care, be blessed, and we'll see you next week.